Hey y'all, I'm about to add my friend Lindsay here, and we are going to talk about this really story. This story, which you may not know about me whenever I first started working. So this should be exciting. Oh, and there's my mom. Hey, Lindsay.
Hey.
Hey.
So is it okay if I just dive
Yeah,
in and start asking you questions?
go
Can you hear
for
me
it.
okay? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so
Good.
we were just in our meeting here talking about marketing things, and one of the things that most fempreneurs don't do enough is share bits and pieces of their past that most people don't know about them. And of course, we want to share positive, uplifting things that are maybe sometimes a little bit juicy and dramatic, which is what we have in store for everyone today. Something I didn't know about you. Um, I'm not able to see you right now, which is weird. Are you able to see me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I can't see you, but anyways, let us know in the comments if you can see both of us, please and
Okay.
thanks, everyone.
hmm
I'll ask that question again in a minute here, but yeah, dive in and share what you were sharing with me earlier about something that most people don't know about you.
Yeah. I was sharing with Lindsay a story of really what my first job was out of college, and which was as a receptionist at what was then Nations Bank, which is now Bank of America. And it was funny because I was telling her when I got out of school, I was actually graduated college when I was 20, and I got a bachelor's, in business administration, and was like, oh, I'm totally need to be making $40,000 a year, which I think is like probably like 80,000 now or something. Anyways, out of college, and I was struggling to find a job, and I had moved to Florida to be with my then boyfriend, and so it had been like a few weeks, and I couldn't find anything because I totally went down there and didn't have a job. Um, and so I went in to interview for basically a call center position because I was like, okay, I just have to have a job to pay my bills because I was on my own at that point. And the recruiter was like, no, you are more qualified than this. I have this job, and it's on the executive floor at the headquarters here, and I was in Tampa, Florida. And it's a receptionist job for the executive floor, and so you need to do that. So that was my first job, and I was making $20,000 a year and living in a little 400 square foot studio apartment.
Okay, so you're from Tennessee,
Uh-huh.
you move out to Florida because you got a boyfriend there and you wanted to be with him at first,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And you get this job, which is not the job that you applied for, and they saw something in you and decided that this is better suited for you. And tell us a bit about your job and who you're working for and the kind of things you were doing.
Yeah. So I was the second assistant to the bank president, but also all the main executives were on that floor as well. We were in the circular building. If you ever see downtown Tampa, I call it the Standing Tower of Pisa because it's the circular building. And so it was a female bank president, which was huge, like really rare to have female executives since 1997 at banks. And so I was there basically as the first person people came in. Executives from all over the country would come in and visit. I was like the first face they saw whenever they came into the executive floor, and would kind of support all the executives, but most like, again, kind of that second assistant to the bank president. And so things like I would do is like I would be the first phone call if a bank got robbed. They would have to call the president. So I would take, oh, this branch just got robbed. At one point, this executive had a stalker, and so they had to hire a security guard who sat with me. And she hated it. She was so mad to have a security guard. Um, and so I had to kind of work with the security guard on that. Also, like, she was just like a total badass. She, had to be tough, obviously, in a very male dominated industry. I remember, like, she like when you walked in to her office or when you would talk in and talk to her, she would just stand, like, you would walk in and she would just stand there and look you from like head to toe, toe to head, and then maybe start talking to you, maybe not. She
And
might
what was
sit
she looking for?
um
Like you
she
mentioned
was looking
devil,
at
you
your
mentioned Devil
outfit.
Wears
Yeah,
Prada.
yeah, she was looking at your outfit, like whether or not she approved
And did you
of
get
it
a
or
different look if you knew she approved? improved, or did you always feel like she didn't improve?
Um, always felt like there was one time I remember I had transferred out of the executive floor and worked at a different operations center, and she happened to come visit, and she was like, "Oh, hey, Sally." She was like, "Boy, you sure couldn't get away with that outfit downtown, could you?" I was like, "No, you couldn't. Thank you." Um, and so that was like the
You're
first
like, you're like, that's exactly what I thought this morning when I put this on. That's
exact.
exactly my thought.
It was a super cute outfit, but she was like, mm-mm, "That's a no." So yeah, so she was like tough as nails, and she would always go to New York and buy all her clothes, and I had just never met anybody who did something like that. I was like, "What? Like, you don't go to the mall? You don't go like Walmart?" Like, she was like, "No, no, that's not the way."
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I asked you this earlier, and I don't know if you
Um,
gave me a solid answer, so hopefully you've come up with one.
oh,
What would be one of her best characteristics that you sort of took away or that you feel like you've adopted into your role as a leader and a leadership trainer?
I think a couple of things for that. One is just I had never really seen a woman with that much power in my everyday life. I mean, she was running a big bank. And so to see how she navigated, she also had two little kids at the time, and she had her husband who was a very high powered lawyer. His office was stories above where we worked. And so I think seeing navigate that was really helpful for me to understand, sometimes the kids were in the office, and like I was telling you, we were in the circular thing, and I remember her daughter would just cartwheels around and around and around. Um, so that was a big piece. And then I think just seeing how she carried herself and knew that how she showed up was really important. Um, and she never talked necessarily, like, I mean, she would talk about being a female in leadership, but it was never all she talked about. She just knew she had to do it differently.
So she knew that she was kind of an exception in a very, very male dominated world, and she knew that she had to be on all the time, would you say?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know one of your idols is Dolly Parton. So I
Mhm.
feel like that woman also really has a similar way of just being like, oh, yeah, I know that I don't get no breaks and I got to maybe work a little harder. And
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah. And I love
Well,
how she talks about like looking the part and like looking
mhm.
like the part, but also she's like don't assume that what you see is what you get. I know how to work it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a great point of like, so Dolly Parton doesn't have kids per se. I mean, obviously she has nieces and nephews and things like that. So this was really my first, one of many opportunities when I worked at the bank to see how female executives navigated this around, because obviously there were different, whether people said it or not, there were different standards for how women showed up, versus men. And that was really helpful for me to see. Also, I think like her generosity too. Like she always brought in a chair masseuse, would come in once a month, and she paid for all of us to get like a 15-minute chair massage,
Oh,
all the
that's
assistants, right?
awesome. That's
Right.
really
I
nice.
remember going to her 50th birthday party at her house. She had this huge soiree, and she invited all the assistants off the floor. And so, I mean, even though she had to be really tough, I mean, there was certainly a level of generosity and kindness there that I think she probably had to be more guarded about.
Okay. Well, now I want you to tell us about what happened in like year 7 for you because you made it, you cruised up that ladder,
Hmm.
and then what?
Yeah. So I started as a receptionist, which is not the way I wanted to start my career, but it actually worked out really well because working on that executive floor introduced me to all the top executives in the state for the bank. One of them hired me as his admin, and then eventually, he started with what was the consumer real estate division, the residential mortgage division at Bank of America, which just exploded. And so I kind of went up through that path, and then eventually relocated to Charlotte from Tampa because I knew I would have to go to bank headquarters at some point to open up my career. And after 7 years, I was a senior vice president, making six figures, getting a really nice bonus at the end of the year, which I wish I still got. And yeah, was like traveling 3 out of the 4 weeks of the month and ended up got married and we were starting to try kids and I was telling my boss, I was like, hey, like I need to be home to get pregnant. It was such an awkward conversation, even though he had 5 kids of his own. And totally understood. And I kept trying to kind of back off, be like, is there a way I can take a step back? And they offered me a promotion and a free MBA instead. And I was like, this is not. And so I left after 7 years because I was like, the only way I'm going to be able to do this is to stop working to be able to get pregnant. And I got pregnant the next month. So
Wow.
yeah, so I left. I was one of the youngest. I mean, I was 28 as a senior vice president at the bank. So it was a big, from receptionist to that is a pretty big jump.
Yeah, that's a really huge jump. So I know a lot of people, including myself, didn't know that about you. So I just wanted you to, yeah, share that story with your audience and really just to inspire, especially the women out there who are building businesses, building careers,
Mhm.
and also just to sort of show them that, like, this is why you do the work that you do, because this has been your path, and these are the people that you've encountered and the challenges you've overcome. And,
Mhm.
you went on to build your own business after having kids, and you've just done a lot of things. And just again, to illustrate people through sharing your story, why you do the work that you do. Is there anything else you wanted to add to
Yeah,
the story or any other
yeah,
things?
a
Yeah.
couple of things I would just say. One is that the recruiter that saw me was a female. And so I think of like women supporting women, right? She saw me and was like, this is so not only is she doing a great job, but a woman supporting another woman and just how important it is just to be in places sometimes and to look around and observe and just build relationships because you never know where, like I had no idea when I started as a receptionist that the relationships I was building that first 6 months on that job would be people I would work with for the next 7 years in some way, or feel like I could call up and be like, hey, so and so, like, remember me, and have that relationship that we could build upon that really could open doors later.
Mm. Yeah, that's awesome. Like every interaction that women are having with other women in the workplace, and yeah, you just never know the kind of ripple effect that you can create when you, yeah, when you lean in and listen and ask the right questions and stuff. So, anyways, thank you for taking the time today to
Yeah.
inspire women by sharing this story. And yeah, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I would just say, you know what? Sometimes you don't get to start doing with the things you want to do, but you never know where those are going to lead. So I was kind of making choices of like, I got to pay the bills, right? But that job really changed things for me. Even though it wasn't what I first wanted, it really opened up new doors for me.
Yeah, I love that about your story. There's just so many doors that opened for you, and you were just trusting. And I know that you're a woman of faith, and that you definitely followed through some doorways that opened for you. And now looking back, it's probably pretty clear why all those things happened the way they did.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Thank you.
awesome. All right, well, thanks for hopping on and sharing that, Sally.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Y'all have amazing days.
Bye.
Bye.